Chapter 4 in the book Mufasa. Before, Taka and Mufasa stood shoulder to shoulder, their eyes fixed on the open expanse in front of them. Ready to start the race, the lion Pride looked on anxiously, unsure of which cub could outpace the other. The tension in the air was as palpable as midday heat on the savannah. Abasi stepped up to kick off the challenge. He sent out a mighty roar, marking the start of the race. Mufasa and Taka both dug their paws into the dirt and lunged forward. Before Mufasa could get too far, Abasi swiped at Mufasa's hind legs and flipped him over, causing Mufasa to trip and fall flat onto his back. The entire pride of lions erupted into laughter as Mufasa grunted from breathing in the dust. "Clumsy little stray," Abasi taunted. Eshe was unable to find any humor in this situation. Her eyes filled with sorrow, she moved forward to help the fallen cub and shouted, "Run, Mufasa!" Taka's rapid pace began to falter as he noticed Mufasa struggling to regain his footing. He yearned to win the race, but he also felt genuine concern for his fallen competitor. Despite his hesitation, Taka pressed on, his heart heavy with regret. He knew that his victory was likely. Even though Mufasa was humiliated, he wanted to prove all the others wrong. He knew he was fast, just like his father had told him. He summoned energy from the depths of his soul, imagining his parents' voices as he pushed past the pain and exhaustion throughout his body. Mufasa drove his paws into the dirt, slowly closing the distance between himself and Taka. With wide jumps, the other lions watched, with bated breath. As Eshe watched Mufasa catch up to Taka, she told Abasi, "You did not have to do that." Abasi scoffed. "Taka is the future. He has to win his first challenge." As he shook her head, "No, Abasi. To be a true king, he must earn it. Don't take that away from him." The two cubs shrank into dots on the savannah plain. As they got farther and farther away, Taka held his advantage, and he knew the terrain. After all, this was his home, and he had spent many days playing here as an only child. He knew every rock, every crevice, and every hidden path. He knew how to navigate through the wetlands along the creek and the blotches of acacia trees that crisscrossed the way. As Mufasa bounded toward Taka, he could feel the wind rushing past him, carrying a sense of the savannah and the distant roar of a waterfall. His powerful muscles flexed beneath his fur, propelling him forward with effortless grace. Despite the blazing sun beating down, Mufasa felt exhilarated. Every heartbeat echoed in his chest like a drum, urging him onward, and his breath came in quick, ragged gasps. But even as his muscles burned with the effort, he remained focused and determined. Mufasa never gave up. Taka moved down to the edge of a shallow canal. Mufasa followed until his ankles met the water. A chill spread over his entire body, and he froze. Flashes filled his mind of the elephant crashing into the earthen leaf, releasing the torrent of water that had separated him from his mother and father. He couldn't give up. He had to find a way around the water. His eyes traveled upward to the trees lining the canal and landed on a long branch just above him, which led to another and another. He wasted no time jumping onto it and started to run across. The thick branches bent with Mufasa's weight but held strong. Now he was running parallel to Taka instead of behind him. Mufasa's heart pounded as he raced to the end of the line of branches. The wind carried the scent of leaves and soil, and his eyes flickered as he saw the flooded ditch looming below him. For a moment, doubt crept into his mind. Could he make the jump and avoid the water? Perhaps not, but he didn't have time to mull it over. He forced his fear aside and focused on the task at hand. With a fierce growl, Mufasa launched himself off the edge, adrenaline rushing through him as he soared through the air. Time seemed to slow down as he sailed over the ditch, his eyes locked on the ground below. And then, with a thud that jolted his entire body, he landed in the ditch. With a burst of energy, he scrambled out of the ditch just as Taka sped by and said, "Better hurry." So Mufasa did, pouncing away from the ditch to run side by side with Taka through the tall grass. The two cubs sprinted onward, pushing themselves to run faster than they ever had before. Just when they approached the finish line, Taka looked at Mufasa and said, "I have one more secret, Mufasa." Then Taka began to slow down, and Mufasa tilted his head, confused by Taka's sluggish and uncoordinated gait. Mufasa watched over his shoulder as the distance between them grew wider. "I always wanted a brother," Taka shouted behind him. Taka's unexpected words echoed in Mufasa's mind as he approached the waiting pride. Yards ahead, he saw Obasi step into his path. Mufasa shifted his direction and fixed his eyes on Eshe. He did not stop until he reached her. Mufasa panted ferociously as he caught his breath. His fur was matted with dirt, but he had won the race. Taka caught up and pounced on Mufasa playfully, congratulating him. Joy eased across Mufasa's face. He had never thought about having a brother, but now it seemed like it might be fun. The furious Obasi stalked up to the two cubs playing and swiped Mufasa away from Taka before shouting, "Cheetah!" as she immediately jumped in to defend Mufasa. "Obasi!" The pride watched their king with keen eyes and anticipating his next move. Obasi had given his permission to let Mufasa stay if he won, and if he went back on his word now, the entire pride surely would lose the respect they held for him. Obasi looked back at his pride and begrudgingly accepted what he must do. "You will keep him with the females," Obasi said, and then he tensed up again and turned toward Taka. "Taka, how could you lose to a stray?" Taka bowed his head in shame. Obasi turned his back to his son and walked away. As the king went farther and farther away, Taka's eyes slowly lifted and he smiled conspiratorially, his shame clearly pretend. He bumped into Mufasa and resumed playing with him. "I thought you said you were fast," he said, taunting Mufasa. "I had to let you win." "Well, I just go days with no sleep while riding the waves of a flood halfway across the continent," Mufasa snorted. Taka danced around him, seemingly in pure bliss. Even after the loss and his father's challenge, excuses, excuses, excuses. Taka's only wish had come true. He had felt alone on the savannah, with no siblings or close friends to share his adventures with. But now, as he ran and played with Mufasa, he had a sense of kingship and belonging that had never experienced before. Eshe watched from a distance, impressed by the new bond that was forming between the two young cubs. She had never seen Taka happier. "Anyway, come on, Mufasa," said Taka. "Let's get into some trouble." And that ends chapter 4.